November 28th, 2016. I am at the corner of Ventura Boulevard and Sariano Avenue. Actually DeSoto Avenue, Ventura and DeSoto Avenue in Woodland Hills, California. And here you can see one of the Starbucks coffee houses across the street. It's pretty large in size. It's a drive-through. It's one of their largest drive-throughs I've ever seen. It's like a McDonald's. It's very beautiful. All the Starbucks coffee houses are beautiful. Very clean, most of them, and customer service is usually pretty good. I've had a few problems, but nothing too big. Anyways, 20903 DeSoto Avenue, Woodland Hills. And the reason why I'm doing this video is hopefully people won't think too much spite or too much jealousy or too much confusion or misunderstanding or misinformation or the wrong information or distorted information or maybe just bad experiences with Starbucks coffees or for whatever reasons. My first Starbucks experience was up in Seattle in 1991, where I started my bachelor's degree at the University of Washington, Seattle in Seattle, Washington. And my first cup of coffee, as far as I believe and know, was definitely a Starbucks at Pike's Place, their location for the first Starbucks coffee. And it was very, very good coffee back then. I was very into coffee. I was learning a lot about coffee. I was a barista for 3 months at a very nice upper class Torifazione coffee bean coffee house / lunch, dinner, and breakfast. Very upper class. Torifazione is now owned, I believe, by Starbucks, but their coffee was probably one of the best in Seattle and most expensive as well. So I do have quite a bit of experience with the coffee bean, and I do kind of know the process of the roasting, the serving, of course, customer service. I have worked in close to 15 restaurants, doing everything except managing a restaurant. Cooking, prep cooking, dishwashing, cleaning, waiting, tons of waiting, busing, cashier. So I have tons of experience in most aspects of the food industry. I'm now almost 50 years old. So the video I'm about to show you is kind of a comparison to what I experienced up in Seattle, and now 25 years later they basically control, in some respects or another, like McDonald's, United States of America. They're that big, they're that powerful, because what you put in your stomach basically controls most human beings on this planet. If you don't put something good in your stomach, it's not going to do you any good. It's going to hurt you, and you won't have that much control over your life. If you put a lot of good stuff in your stomach, hopefully those people have more control over their life. The stomach is the epicenter of good mental and physical health in many respects, but there's a lot of other aspects of health. So back to the story with Seattle. My coffees are mostly purchased at the first Pike's Place coffee house in Seattle, and the Ave, which is the avenue, well, they call it the Ave, right next to the University of Washington, and that's where the majority of the coffee houses were, at least back then. In 1991, there were alleyway coffee houses, on the street coffee houses, grunge coffee houses. It was the hippest thing in Seattle, next to the laptop, computer, Microsoft, and the list goes on of all the startup tech companies. So back again to Pike's Place. Their coffee was very good back then. Today it is not the same coffee. I have that much knowledge on coffee. Somewhat booze, not so much. I never did bartending, but food, I have tons of knowledge on food and expertise in the areas of food. And Starbucks coffee is not the same. They definitely downgraded. They became very commercialized, which is very common with most businesses that become very large, national, international, and become a home name brand product and or service. So the coffee is not the same. Well, back then, a few years later, I was in and out of doctor's offices, and I was trying to figure out why I was so sick. For years, And my doctor kept saying, well, back off the coffee, back off the coffee. Of course, I would drink a latte. It wasn't so much a coffee I was drinking. Very rare I drink coffee. It was mostly lattes. I'd go for the largest double shot latte right before my doctor's appointment. Then I'd walk in sick, and I'd be sick after, and I'd be sick even days when I didn't drink coffee. Well, my doctor really believed it had somewhat to do with the coffee. He kept telling me to back off the coffee, and I didn't listen. And I knew they were laughing at me once in a while when I'd walk into Starbucks. Of course, not being from Seattle, from California, Californians are often thought of as stupid, greedy, you need training, you don't have enough knowledge, da 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 da. Well, it's a yes and no wherever you go. They need training down here, but the point is, yes, the LA people do not know much about Seattle. It's very different, very homogenous back then. When I was up in Seattle, there were no minorities. The only minority that was considered a minority were Asians from China who came to Seattle and Vancouver to educate themselves and go into the tech industry. So minorities didn't exist. There was almost no black people except for the recruits from other states, black people on the football teams, sports teams, black women as well, some. And Hispanics and Mexicans, they did not exist. Very few foreign people at all. The only thing considered minority would, of course, be the African Americans from other states and the South End, which was all black back then. So again, back to the story, to the doctor and the coffee problem, and a part of the problem was too much caffeine, and it was a good coffee as far as I know back then, but now everything has changed. And Starbucks is huge, the coffee is downgraded, downsized, is commercialized, and what they do to the coffee now is so scary and destructive, it can ruin a person's life, and most people will not believe it because they're addicted to Starbucks. It's now mainstream, and everyone loves Starbucks. Very few people will go against Starbucks, except some web pages or websites that talk about Starbucks as the green monster. Well, it's true in some respects. McDonald's is often labeled the child molester fast food of the United States of America by many sites. One of them being Alex Jones. He really believes that if you want to go into child molestation, you'll go eat at McDonald's. It's on YouTube. Alex Jones definitely says good things about Starbucks. He drinks 2 Starbucks or 1 Starbucks or however many Starbucks, with 2 iPhones in his back pocket, and he goes on InfoWars and talks about InfoWars. He likes Starbucks and iPhone, Apple. He thinks it's a great thing. He drinks there all the time and sticks 2 iPhones in the back of his pocket. Well, I certainly would not do what he does with Starbucks. It's too much coffee, and I definitely would not buy an iPhone to stick in the back of my pocket. In fact, I don't even use a phone unless I'm there to call somebody very close to me, which is once every few days at the most. I don't do business on my phone. So I don't know where Alex Jones is coming from, but the point is Starbucks can or will be or is going to be more deadly than McDonald's, and that is because what they do to the coffee bean before it even arrives in the States is so scary. And that is, there is definitely impurities on the coffee bean, a lot of impurities. Before they roast the bean, when it's in South America, they let mold contaminate much of the bean, but not all of it. I think they control the mold, which coffees get what mold. And basically mold is the size of a nano. In biotechnology and technology and medicine and science, good or bad, mold is used to reconstruct the DNA of anything that's DNA. It could be plants, it could be vegetables, fruits, humans for sure. They use mold because mold is the size of nano. It is the size of your DNA, your genetics, and because it is that size, it can attach yourself to your genetics, and with an additional information input onto the mold, the nano-sized mold, like nanotechnology, they can modify over time genetics, change a person's behavior, thinking, persuade you to believe whatever they want to believe, because they do have the money and power. That is not only our government, that is the corporations. I'm sure McDonald's does it in many ways. I don't know with what. I haven't researched it, but I do not eat at McDonald's almost at all. If I do, it's French fries and a coffee. But with Starbucks, the process is very lengthy. They have taken control of politically much of the United States, because coffee is now a staple diet like it was hundreds of years ago with potatoes and meat when the hunters came here to dig for the gold. Well, that time isn't here anymore, but it's coming back. And coffee now again is #1 drink and back to where they get their coffee from, whether it's Mexico, South America, Brazil, South African blend, Indonesian blend, Sumatra blend, United States blend, which I doubt. The mold embeds itself in the coffee bean, and when it's roasted, it turns into a fullerene, a nano-fullerene chemical that definitely goes into your genetics. Most people would not know it unless you researched it and are expert on that field of nanotechnology, nanobiotechnology. It is nano-sized and it can reconstruct your DNA over time. It is that small. In the process of reconstructing and changing and modifying and mutating a human's genetics, you have to go through illnesses, real physical illnesses, doctors, strange diseases, mental illness, health issues, which of course in turn lead to social problems, relationship problems, family problems, work problems, and money problems. I'm not saying this for everybody. It is only for those who are allergic to nanotechnology, nano anything the size of nano that is not natural, and definitely Starbucks coffee. Their coffee, by the time it's roasted, burns. They crisp the outside of it and grind it. With voltage connected to their grinder, they can put anything they want into that fullerene, just like a cell phone window. That is exactly what a cell phone window is. It is graphene, nanotechnology, that is the size of your genetics, and when you touch that screen or hold a cell phone close into your hand, over years, months and years, it can change your thinking and genetics. Doubtful. It takes a lot more than just a cell phone to do that. It takes chemicals, it takes food, it takes coffee, drinks, cars, your lifestyle. What are you immersing yourself in? Water. Anything, textiles. But with coffee, it goes straight into your stomach, black, fullerene. With your cell phone technology, laptop, it can and will ruin a person's life only if you are sensitive. Electromagnetic sensitive, nanosensitive, chemical sensitive, sensitive to foods and coffees. This does not apply to most Americans, and I would not recommend listening further than this if you are one of those people that are not affected by it. It won't apply to you. It does apply to those people who are chemical sensitive, electromagnetic sensitive, electro-hypersensitivity, electrochemical sensitive, nanosensitive, fullerene sensitive, anything that you did not grow up with 30, 40, 50 years ago, before nano existed much. If you did not adapt to high technology and the new chemicals in the last 20 some years, then you are probably one of those people in a continuum. It could be 1 through 10, let's say. Maybe you're hardly affected by it. Many people are a 5. I've probably met a few people in my lifetime that are close to 8s. They have it so bad they cannot do anything with their life except research the internet of doctors, and or maybe they had to move or change their lifestyle so extremely bad that they're either outside or living in a log cabin like Little House on the Prairie. Who knows? But the point is, compared to the coffee in 1991 and today, Starbucks is not the Starbucks, and it is not a safe coffee. It will ruin a person's life. It is mostly a chemical burnt coffee with nanofullerene, natural nanofullerene. I'm not saying they add chemicals to it, but whenever you crisp something into a carbon and you grind it up and you're adding electricity to the grind and you're working with cell phones and the coffee's been sitting there a long time, you will get the imprints that they want you to have. Those are real images, those are real voices, those are real diseases. It's chaos. It will often and will mess around, manipulate, distort the neurons in your brain mixed in with the electromagnetic energy, radio frequency, electromagnetic frequency, anything that is energy frequency, electromagnetic energy, even sunlight. It will definitely mess around with your head and distort your perception of reality, your reality now, your reality of the past, your reality of present and the future. It can and will do that to you, and that's exactly how those two things mixed together can and will change a person's life for the worst. I would have never said anything about this, but Starbucks definitely ruined my life in Seattle in many ways, and it doesn't matter. It's definitely not a personal thing anymore. It was a long time ago when I found out about it and did my own research and experienced it myself through my doctors and my own research and talking with people, very few people. I spent many years in Seattle, and I watched Microsoft get big and Starbucks, mostly those two companies. I would never recommend believing in the digital world and working with Microsoft in front of that screen, because that is a nano screen with electromagnetic frequency, electromagnetic energy, RF coming through the screen with nano. The screen's nano. Unless you're not sensitive to those two things, having fullerene in your stomach, which is never been disapproved by the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. They won't now. Maybe in about 30 years they will. They'll say now it's dangerous, like they do everything else. After everyone's ingested their chemical poison, that's the way the government works, and that's the way they like it. But that's just an example, and I don't hate Microsoft, but they have some good products, and like I said, Starbucks has some good products. But if you're one of those people, I would really be aware of what's making a negative impact in your life, because those two things most of the time will not help you. They're not natural elements anymore. They're not good for you. And the radio wave woman Starbucks, some other people call it the green monster. I kind of look at her and see a radio wave. Her hair, it looks like one big radio wave, all ripply like a lily wave, which is a real radio wave they use and developed right here at UCLA, California, Los Angeles. They use the lily wave everywhere. I think that's probably where whoever created that logo and or started Starbucks, I forgot their names, I was just on the website today. I didn't get the right food or coffee in my stomach this morning, so anyways, that looks like a radio wave. Her hair, they were probably on the beach camping or something when they got that idea for the Starbucks woman, the seaweed and the radio wave, and they were going to save the planet like a lot of other companies, and they became big. Now they're destroying the planet. Their trash is everywhere like McDonald's. Those two companies, McDonald's and Starbucks, has their trash piled miles high in every state. If you put all the trash together, more than any other company on this planet. But that's definitely looking like a radio wave seaweed mermaid. I don't know if she's good anymore. She looks kind of poisonous to me, not too much, but you got to be careful. And I don't know if she's helping the planet. I don't know who she's helping. But that's definitely not safe anymore. That's definitely a mind control logo, and as far as I'm concerned, it's chemical coffee. And it's no more safe or dangerous than McDonald's. And McDonald's is definitely not something you'd want to go to every day. I also get a little sick off their coffee. Not as bad, but coffee just isn't good much wherever you go. But Starbucks is definitely not the safest coffee. It is definitely the most dangerous coffee around. And it will definitely give some people serious health problems, mental issues, diseases before they pass away. And for depopulation, yes, if you're into that belief system, belief theory, conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, that the government and the corporations are trying to depopulate, Starbucks is one of them. When they get that big, they have to depopulate, and it is understandable. And that's just the way it is. There are too many people on this planet, but for those who want to know the truth about the coffee and how that's done, and well, this is the stuff you'd want to research. It is on the websites. You have to look for it. Pick my video apart and find out what I'm saying is true and what I'm saying is not true. But I'm just talking about one aspect of the coffee bean, and most people will never talk about this stuff on any website except a few. Only a few. I've only seen the mold theory on a few websites, and I know it's true because that is the only way to control a person, is to have mold in the food. And when you burn it, it's like having a real microchip in your stomach, an RFID. Well, anyways, that's the story, and I think that's about it. I think I've said enough.